Hello. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
This is exciting. I'm very excited about this. First of all, which nickname do we use tonight?
You choose.
There's so many. I have one.
What is it?
Busy, which is short for Elizabeth.
I love that.
Yeah.
My sister
Your
back there is
sister's name.
Liz, but we call her Lizabitch.
My sister called me lizard lips growing up, and I hated it so much. Your sister is prominently featured in both of your this book, True Gretch. I want to ask: are there some teens in the audience? Shout out to the teens. Just my own teen backstage. I wanted to ask first off, what do you think your grandma Nina would say about the fact that not only do I part my hair in the middle, but I did get married before age 28. Now I am divorced, so.
Well, I got divorced after 20, I got married after 28 and I still got divorced.
Okay, so fair enough.
My grandma's advice, three things. First, I should say my sister Liz, who helped me with this book tremendously, is in the back room. So Elizabeth is a fond name, we call her. I'm not telling stories behind her back. It's embracing the insult someone gives you and making it your own. That's part of one of the lessons in the book.
One of the things you've managed to do quite well
in
your career. We've all been a witness to it.
I'm that woman from Michigan, and she's Elizabeth, and that's how it goes. But
and half-wit?
And yes,
half-wit?
Yes, that
Right?
was one of the current president's nicknames for me in his first term. Gretchen Whitmer. But we thought it was very funny, and we made a family cookbook, and we call it Cooking with Half-Wits. Because my sisters and my kids are half-Whitmers, so they are half-wits. But part of what the book is really about is, sharing stories from different times in my life that taught me something that I've used to get through the last 6 years as governor in Michigan. And through all the ups and downs of pandemic and plots and incredible, weather events and protests, these are lessons that I learned at a young age, but that I've used to stay optimistic in really heavy times. And that's why I wrote True Gretchen, why we morphed it into a young adult version, because I think no matter how old you are, navigating tough times, whether it's what's going on in Washington, D.C. or in our own lives or in our own community, these are hopefully lessons that will give people a laugh at my expense, or maybe a strategy to navigate something, or just some simply light reading in a dark time. So
yeah, and also some inspiration on how we move forward currently speaking. To that end, I wanted to, because you mention it and you talk about it in the book, and in about how being able to listen to people that you disagree with, being open to collaboration with people on the other side of the aisle, is something that you've been able to manage for the greater good. And we're definitely in a very politically divisive moment, and have been for quite some time. And I was just curious about your thoughts, especially for young people, on how best to bridge these divides. Like, what do you see as a possible path to getting a little bit closer together?
Well, it's challenging. I mean, that's the understatement of the decade, right?
Truly.
These are incredibly challenging and scary times for people of all ages, right? All around the globe, frankly. It's not unique to America. Some of the challenges are unique to this country, but I think our young people, just like all of us, are dealing with this stress in different ways, right? Young people they can sniff out BS quicker than people in Generation X can, or anyone else for that matter. They understand, what's happening with climate or fundamental rights. And what I hope is that they get activated, not turn away from it. And that's an easy thing to say. It's a hard thing to do, even for me. I got to tell you, in the aftermath of November 5th, I have kind of wanted to turn away, right? To turn off the television, not taken as everything that I used to. So, but these are thoughts about how we can make a difference, whether it is in our community, how we learning to listen. There's a whole chapter on learning to listen. And when I ran for governor the first time in 2018, Donald Trump had just won Michigan, in the election of 16, and I knew I was going to need to get into all parts of the state of Michigan. And Michigan's a really big state. I'm here in New York, big state, but in Michigan, so we're two peninsulas, right? We look like this, and there's a couple Michiganders here. But in Michigan, when you're in Lansing, Michigan, which is in the Lower Peninsula, kind of centrally located at the bottom part of the Lower Peninsula, you're 10 hours away from the western end of the UP, way up here. I mean, we're as close to Lansing right now as part of Michigan is to Lansing, Michigan. And so it's a big state, and I wanted to get all across Michigan and talk to people and ask them, if I'm lucky enough to get elected, what could I do that would make your life better? And then I just listened. And when you ask people a question, they'll often tell you, exactly what's on their mind. And I heard over and over again, I just want you to fix the damn roads. And so I started saying, all right, we're going to fix the damn roads. And people loved it. I never would have thought in a million years that's what I had run on. But it was in a conversation with a woman at the Detroit Children's Hospital. I was walking through, and it's a weird place to have a political conversation, but I was taking a tour, getting a better understanding of what they do every single day and how could I help them if I got elected. And I came across a woman who was there, and she was, looked receptive to having a conversation. And so I asked her that question. I'm running for governor. If I'm fortunate enough to get elected, what could I do that'll make your life better? And she looked me in the eye and she said, I just need you to fix the damn roads. And I was shocked. I did not expect that to be the answer. I'm in a children's hospital. I thought she'd talk about health care or child care or something. And so I asked her the follow-up question. I said, tell me a little bit more. Why is that the first thing on your mind? And she explained. She was from Flint, Michigan, so about 70 miles, north of Detroit. She drove every day to see her son in the hospital. I had two other kids at home, and she was doing this commute, and she hit a pothole. And it sidelined her for a whole day because it destroyed the tire. She had to get it fixed. She had to spend money that she had
to get your car towed. You have to,
take the whole time out. Never saw her son in the hospital. Had to spend money that
probably didn't get to see the kids at home either.
Right, exactly.
I fully, as a parent, understand this fundamentally.
Spent money that could have gone for rent or child care, fixing the car. And so it was one of those moments that had I not asked that follow-up question, had I not asked the question in the first place, I might not have really understood why fixing the damn roads is not really about just roads. It's about making sure people can get ahead and live the life they want to and get to where they need to be. And so learning to listen is a really important skill, whether you're in politics or you are in,
acting, it's like rule number 1.
Yeah.
You got to learn how to listen.
Right.
You guys know that, right? You get it. No, I love that. I love that so much. So what happened? When did people's ears get turned off? What do you think?
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. Empathy. I think empathy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I don't know. I think I have as a person who does this for a living, I think that empathy is a thing that I've always been cultivating in myself and in my kids and through storytelling and books. Books were really important in my family growing up. You can leave your phone on if you need. I have no judgments. I really don't, actually, to be honest with you, because you never know what someone's going through, which is another thing in your book.
Right.
You never know if somebody's kid is in the hospital or whatever. Your phone can stay on. You know what I mean?
Right. No, it is. It's empathy. It's seeing the humanity in another person.
Yes.
It's trying to see someone as a person. In our house, my dad was, we call it in Michigan, Governor Milliken was he was a Republican, but old school Republican, cared about women's reproductive rights, he was a great leader at the time. My dad was a Republican in that, cut from that cloth. My mom was a Democrat. And, I learned in that household, if you stay focused on your values and you actually try to understand what someone else is thinking, you can find common ground. And so it's not just staying in your, lane or tuning out the other side. It's asking questions. Now, it's not subjecting yourself to hate. It's not going into dangerous places. It's not making yourself vulnerable in a place where you are not safe. But it is trying to seek out common ground whenever you can. I think that that's a superpower. I think that, really understanding where someone's coming from can make all the difference in the world in terms of your ability to find some common ground. Yeah.
How old are your daughters now?
22 and 21. My youngest turned 21 on November 5th.
Oh, wow.
We were drinking.
So was I. How did your daughters get involved in the book?
So my girls, in the end of this book, when we changed one of the reasons we wanted to adapt this into a young adult version is because I met so many people who were buying the original book for their kids and grandkids. And we thought, maybe we can tell some more stories from my youth, but also pull my kids more into the book. And so at the back of the book, there's a big Q&A section. And it's really, I think, it was fun for us to do. My sister was a big part of it, interviewed my girls, and that's the Q&A. Elizabeth, yes. She did that part. And it was just fun to hear their voices and have them participate even more in this book. They're everything for me, just like you and your kids. I mean, everything I do as governor, as a individual, as a mom is all about trying to make the world a better place for them, or trying to make sure that they can access health care, that they are safe and protected under the law no matter where they live, that they have opportunities. And so, a lot of the stuff that we are witnessing right now is really hard to accept, but it's also why it's important to keep doing the work, because that's what it's all about. My kids, for me.
Yeah, you do seem like a person to me, just as from watching you from afar and being a fan, which is like weird to say about politicians. I have to, you know what I mean? But I am. I'm a fan of everything that I've seen. And you, in these 6 years, have gone through so much as governor. And I'm curious, it seems like you follow your own North Star. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like, and you tell some anecdotes in the book as well of going out kind of on a limb, even against, and this is before you were governor, I'm specifically referencing talking about your own sexual assault on the floor when the bill was being debated about health care for abortion. And you were kind of given the advice, like, don't do it.
Yeah. So in 2013, and it was December 11th of 2013, and the reason I remember the date is my grandmother, Nino, who I opened the book with, it was her 100th birthday. And in Michigan, there was an effort led by folks on the other side of the aisle and a number of different interest groups to make it harder for women to access abortion care. And they were, the governor before me, Rick Snyder, Republican at the time, had vetoed this legislation that they'd pushed through. And they were trying to do an end run around the governor. So they went out, and in Michigan, you can collect a certain number of signatures. And the governor, it doesn't matter if they sign or veto, they have no role in it. You can just sidestep a governor. And so they were pushing through this bill to require that women and couples who wanted abortion care to be a part of their insurance would have to pre-purchase it. So you'd have to pre-purchase something for an unplanned event. Something that wasn't even in the marketplace, by the way, abortion insurance. And so
it's like so defies logic. Sometimes I'm just like, what will they think of next?
Right. And they didn't hold a single hearing, a committee hearing. They didn't let women or doctors or nurses come in and testify. It was just they were trying to jam it through as quickly as possible. And I was one of only 12 Democrats in the state Senate at the time. I was the leader of the Democrats in the state Senate. And at that time, just to put a finer point on it, there were more men named John in the Michigan Senate than women.
Cool, cool.
Or Johns in the Senate. Like, okay, there's jokes there, but I'll refrain. So they were pushing this through, not holding any hearings, and I was getting up to give my speech. I knew I was going to speak against it, but...
you also do a really great job. As someone who testified before Congress, that experience was wild to me, just what the specifics and the rules were about it. And you do a really great job of explaining the specifics of like, when a bill is being debated, if you're not there and you don't press the button immediately, it's done. You can't go back
speak. Right.
and speak.
Right.
Against or for.
So you got to be on your toes, even for a debate that's
Can't go to the bathroom.
Night. You can't go to the bathroom. No one else can push the button for you. You have to be the one. And so when it was my turn right before it was my turn, I pushed my button and I grabbed 2 of my staff people and went in the back room. And I shared with them that I had been raped when I was in college. I'd never told anyone outside of a couple of partners over my whole life since the event had happened. And one was a female and one was male. The female staffer who had been with me my whole career said, "Don't do it. Don't say that out there. It'll just make you vulnerable, and it won't change the outcome of the vote." And I respect her opinion. She's a savvy person. I know she cares about me. And the male staffer, I said, "What do you think?" And he was ashen. I mean, he didn't know what to say, and he said that. "I don't know what to say. You should do what you think the right thing to do is." And I had tried to talk one of my colleagues into telling his story. He and his wife had gone through IVF. They desperately wanted to have kids. She had a failed pregnancy and had to go in and have a DNC, which is an abortion.
Right.
She's busy as part of like one of my big, crusades is we got to stop calling it different things in different circumstances. We have to call it abortion.
Yes.
Whether you've got multiple embryos implanted and they want to increase the odds of one, we don't call it selective. Yes, it's abortion. And we have to use that language. 100%. It's abortion care. But he and his wife had just gone through a failed pregnancy. She had to be hospitalized and had to have an abortion. And I asked him to tell it because I thought his story might resonate with the people that were pushing this bill. This was a family who's trying to have a child and couldn't and still needed this care. And he couldn't do it. It was too raw. And I walked back to my desk and I thought, how can I ask him to bare his soul when I have a story that might make an impact? And so I decided to tell my story in the middle of my remarks. I shared that the vote went up on the board, meaning we could see how everyone was voting. It was all the Republicans voted in favor of it, plus 1 Democrat. I lost one of my own members, and my 11 Democrats stood with me, and we lost. The vote came down, and it was gutting, not just because I lost the vote, because I put myself out there like that, but because I also realized I had to call my dad and tell him about this situation because it was going to hit the news. I never told him that I had been raped when I was in college.
And your children.
I had to tell my kids because they were in middle school, and I was worried they'd go to school and might hear something because I knew it would be all over the news. And I woke up the next morning, and I was really depressed. I had...
Oh, well, there's a word for it.
It's
like a vulnerability hangover.
Oh.
It's a thing that happens. I know this because I wrote a fucking memoir. But a vulnerability hangover is when you publicly sort of share something, and it could be like on your Facebook or whatever, you share it with your 40 friends, whatever it is. And then you feel just like this sinking, horrific, depression after.
Yeah, it was awful. But I got into my office the next day, and we had been inundated by people who'd called and emailed and were grateful that I told my story, and then they shared their stories, or they told me someone else who'd lived through that and that they were going to share it and that they thanked me. And that was the moment when I realized, it took me a long time to be comfortable talking about it. And now I'm really comfortable talking about it. I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to tell my worst things, and women across this country shouldn't have to.
Preach it.
But
Yeah, but I
we
mean,
do.
literally, I also, like, I think
have
about,
to.
like, my Black friends shouldn't have to, you know, have the worst things that happen to them be, you know, put out there for public consumption, or not until George Floyd and people saw the video were some people aware of what was really happening. And as women, especially, speaking about my abortion on my late night show, the next day was really terrifying for me. And then the calls and the emails and the people. And I think that we have a different position because we're in a public space, right?
Well, and, you know, we found our voice. It took me a long time before I could talk about it and see that, you know, one of the things I talk about in the book is I saw a therapist at one point who, I love the visual kind of, you know, analogy is, she said, we're all a ball of clay. And sometimes things get taken away from us. And it's not our fault, but it gets taken away from us. And we're missing that piece. But what is left can have purpose. For instance, if you take out the center of a ball of clay, it becomes a vessel and it can carry water. And I always loved that because I thought, you know, that part of me was stolen, that when I was raped, something was taken away from me. But I can see the purpose in it, and I can, I don't want that to happen to anybody.
Right.
But I can use my voice, and not every survivor gets to a place where they can use their voice, and that's why I feel a responsibility to make sure to use mine, and that's okay if you can't. But those who can, I think that growth and goodness can come from it.
Yes, amen to that.
Yeah.
I love that you really focus too on staying positive. And I'm just curious, how are we doing that right now? What are we going to do? How do you do that? How do you maintain?
Well,
what are you getting it from these days?
I try to surround myself with I try to find good every day. I keep a gratitude journal.
Yes, I actually think that is so. Oh, also, I do want to point, you talk about your, girl, I always have a notebook. I'm always taking notes.
Yeah.
You always take notes.
I do. When people come to a meeting and they don't take notes, I don't trust them. I don't.
It's like when you have a waiter that doesn't write down the order.
Yeah.
Like one time it's worked out. You know what I mean? You love a note-taking moment.
I do, and a gratitude journal helps me. You know,
Yeah.
I remember.
What do you like 3 things in the morning, 3 things, what are we doing?
At night.
Tell me.
3 things at the end of the day.
Okay, I'm doing it. I'm anything you say right now, I'm going to do.
92nd Street Y and Busy Phillips are on my list tonight.
Oh, thanks.
Yes.
That's exciting, guys.
Truly.
You made the list.
During the pandemic and all the threats, sometimes it was Wine and Kevin and Doug, who are my dogs.
I mean, yeah. To be fair, is it a little bit like Wheel of Fortune where like the letters are already a given? Like your dogs are always on the gratitude journal, right?
Well,
right?
yes, but
Unless
it's nice to have them on days where I struggle to find other good things.
Okay, fair. That's fair. Okay,
Yeah.
Gina, except when she ate my entire almond croissant last week. That was not chill.
Yeah, that's not cool.
No, Gina come on. Okay, so the gratitude, and it's 3 things?
Yeah. Sometimes it gets longer on some days, which is great. But I come up with at least 3 things. And I think that's important, but surrounding myself with great people. I've got a wonderful team, and I'm lucky. I've come from a great family. Like I feel really fortunate. Even on the hardest days, I count my blessings, and I think that's what it's about. But they've been tough days, and there are going to be tough days ahead. And that's why putting some light out into the world, coming together, right, and having a laugh, or putting together your plan. What are we going to do next? How are we going to navigate this? I think it's that's what's going to keep us all afloat, optimistic, and keep moving forward.
Okay, yeah. On this bus tour, on this book tour, you're not going to be on a bus. You're going to Washington, D.C., Arizona, my home state. Say hi. Indiana, Florida, California, Pennsylvania, and obviously Michigan. So what are you excited about in going to these different cities right now and with this book and spreading a message in this exact moment?
Well, I'm excited for the unknown. Yeah. I think that putting some light onto the world really is what this has all been about. And I knew last year was going to be a tough year, being a national election and all the personalities involved. That's why I wanted to get the book out last year, because I wanted to have something positive to talk about and to focus on and to share something with the world that could be helpful. And so here we are in another heavy year. And I think this will help keep me centered, but also give me an opportunity to engage with people and listen and learn and ask questions. And I think share a message that is hopeful. People need that. This is going to be, a very, very tough time. And we've got to find one another. We've got to support one another. And we've got to spread, I think, a message that that people can find themselves in, so that we don't have to live through this beyond the time of the people that have been recently elected.
Oh, God. I mean, do you feel like you're going to be the first woman president? I don't know. I just feel like you always hear like Joe Biden was like, I knew he was going to be president at some point. Like, do you feel that? Do you want that? Do you have like... You probably politically like aren't supposed to say that out loud, but it's just us. We won't say anything. But I'm curious, like, do you have like a drive to continue public service in a bigger way?
Let me say this. I know. Here she goes. The politician's coming out. But
you have to. I get it. But come on, let's not. But we love you because you aren't sort of.
I don't
too.
BS.
Okay.
Yes. When I ran for governor and I started my campaign in 2016. In 2015, if you'd asked me if I was going to run for governor, I would have said probably not. When there is an opportunity and there's not a group or a person that I want to get excited about supporting, sometimes I have a tendency to roll up my sleeves and just take something on. I know that about myself. That being said, we do have a lot of great leaders across the country right now.
Yeah.
The Democratic bench is very deep, and there are some wonderful people who I know are looking at it and thinking about it. I'll be done governor in 2 years. Well, yeah, but almost 2 years. I think I'm going to need to take a breath and get my bearings and maybe walk the earth for a minute. But I don't ever plan to check out. The stakes are too high, and I'm going to stay involved one way or another.
Yeah, I always, I like that answer. I also would have liked if you had said, deep in my heart, I just really have always thought I was going to be the first female president. That was my dream.
You're a troublemaker.
I am a little good trouble, right? Right, guys? I always want my kids to feel truly empowered in who they are and whatever that is and whatever path that takes them. And you talk a lot in this book about empowerment. It's just a very strong message. So I'm curious advice to parents of your kids are, listen, their brains are almost fully formed. Your older daughter's 25?
22.
Oh, 22, so not yet, right? 25, isn't that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got a few more years. I'm wondering what parental advice, what parenting advice you might have on how best to continue to encourage your kids to stay engaged, involved, and active and empowered.
Well,
especially, not just especially girls, boys and girls.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that that I love is my kids are they're tuned in way more than I was at that age. I don't know if you see that in your kids or not.
Oh my God, yes.
But if I'd had my act together like they do, I really could have been somebody. I'm serious.
That is literally my line.
They are.
Do you even? Yeah, no, I really say that.
They're so thoughtful.
Yeah.
They are so engaged. They're consuming so much information. I mean, it's really, I've learned a lot from my kids. And there's a part in here. So my oldest daughter is a gay woman. And she is, she's...
I may have earmarked it.
Yeah. It's
really good.
It's a funny exchange. So in 2 years ago, I won re-election, and we swept in Democrats into the House and Senate in Michigan. So we controlled everything for the first time in 40 years. And so we were on a tear to make sure that...
She has the actual text thread in the book, which is like, I really appreciate.
We were on a tear to make sure that, we were delivering on the things that we ran on, and we did so many great things, from feeding every child in Michigan breakfast and lunch at school every day, to great climate policy, to the Crown Act, to abortion rights, and so on. And LGBTQ rights as well. So we finally codified LGBTQ rights in Michigan. And I was getting ready to sign the legislation. And I was texting with my oldest daughter, and I said, would you like to come with me when I sign this bill into law? Because she's very comfortable telling her story. I've never asked her to do anything, but I always invite. And she said, I'd love to stand there with you, Mom. I said, and how do you want me to refer to you? As a member of the community? And she wrote back, what does she say, Busy?
No, wait, you say, a part of the community or a gay woman? And she said, gay woman is good. Community member is hilarious.
So she's roasting me in our text thread, which we put a picture of in the book.
And you say, lol, thanks for the counsel, gay woman. And she says, anything for you, my non-community member. And then you wrote back, I prefer community ally. And then you sent an emoji. And then she said, you are ridiculous.
But, I think that I've learned so much from my kids. And so parenting, I don't know that I've got great parenting advice other than, we're very integrated. We are very close, and we share lots of things, although they didn't know a lot of my escapades when I was younger until they were of age. I didn't want them to know that I was a big drinker in high school until they were out of high school,
I think that that's fair.
Yeah.
I think it's okay for there to be age-appropriate things that you let your children know when they are of the age that it is appropriate for them to know.
Right.
But it strikes me just that it comes back to possibly for you one of your guiding principles in the book, which is listening. That's what it seems like to me, how you've empowered your children.
Yeah, and I try to make sure that I'm understanding, asking all those follow-up questions, the 5 whys. You ask 5 questions after a statement that you don't understand.
Who, what, when, where, and why?
Or why, right?
Sure.
Help me get to the bottom of what's really happening, and then you can be there to solve a problem or to assist, or just them being able to talk is helpful.
Can I ask you a question about the roads?
Yes.
How are they?
They're getting better.
Okay.
I always tell people in Michigan, I apologize for all the orange barrels, and you're welcome.
Yeah, because I also would imagine you go into something like being the governor of a huge state like Michigan, and you have what you want to do and your agenda, and then, I don't know, a pandemic hits. There's a lot that happens. And are there things that you are still looking for to accomplish for the people of Michigan that you haven't been able to get done yet?
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten a lot of good stuff done, but I still have big things that I want to accomplish. And a long-term, you're going to fall asleep now, a long-term road solution is still a part of what I need to get done.
Talk to us. We're on these subways. Like, we're, when it rains, it rains down there. We're having infrastructure issues that seem not reasonable.
Yeah, it's not sexy, but it's really important. You know?
It's really important.
So yes, that's high up on the list. And then I got a lot of other things. You know, I just gave a speech a couple weeks ago at the Detroit Auto Show, and you know, I'm concerned about tariffs. So, you know, with our North American neighbors would be devastating for the average consumer and jobs, especially in the auto industry. So there are a lot of different things that I'm working on.
Michigan, how the eggs doing?
Expensive, baby.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get any cheaper with the bird flu.
No. Well, and if we have tariffs on Mexico, you know, your blueberries are going to get more expensive too.
And your avocados.
Right.
What are we doing right now? What are we doing to help ourselves? Like, I am reading things every day. Like, do we need to sign up for updates from DUNET, for the CDC, or like, what should we be doing to protect ourselves and our immediate communities? Do you have any ideas?
Well, I suspect we're talking with a very sophisticated audience right now who is searching and reading as much as you can from trusted sources. I think that's really important. The traditional sources that we could and should be able to rely on, I think are now, you've got to check them, right? So
But that's been kind of for a while happening.
Well, I mean, not the last 4 years, but the 4 before that and the next 4, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that's going to be crucial. And it's important that every one of us, we all have people that love us and respect us. And so what we put out into the world is going to impact them too. And so to share that information, but also to be careful about what we're consuming. Every one of us makes a choice, right? About what we take in terms of media and information, and what we put out into the world, into this as the same. And I think thoughtful people who are discerning what's happening all can play a role in this, helping us get through the next 4 years.
And also music.
And music. I love music.
I know you put your Gretch playlist.
Yeah, Big Gretch. What?
Your Big Gretch playlist.
But
you're very eclectic in your musical tastes in this playlist.
Well,
did you make one on like Spotify or Apple Music?
Yeah, I do have one there.
So do you have other playlists? Can we follow you? Can we listen to your playlists?
Well, the list is there. I don't have a lot more than that.
Got like Taylor, yeah, Guns N' Roses, Queen, White Stripes, Aretha Franklin, Eminem, Prince, and obviously
G. Matt Cash, who wrote the song Big Gretch.
Big Gretch. How weird is that? Was that like the weirdest moment of your life? Like, what is that like?
It was surreal. So, we're going through the pandemic. It is a scary, hard time. I started getting protesters at the residence, people showing up with long guns and,
I know we didn't even get
bullhorns.
Into the attempt. Yes.
Bullhorns, all of that. It was tough.
Attempt.
It was a hard time. They took over the Capitol, et cetera. And I go into work one day, and this woman on my team, Shaquila Myers, she's an African-American woman from Detroit. She's like, Governor, they're calling you Big Gretch. And I'm like, what? Because, I'm named after both my grandmothers, Gretchen and Esther. I'm Gretchen Esther Whitmer. And Grandma Gretchen always said, never let anyone call you Gretch. Your name is Gretchen. Gretch is not a pretty name. It rhymes with wretch, and we do not go by that. And so I've always had this aversion. If you call me Gretch, like, I can get a little prickly. And I don't know many women that want big on the front of their nickname, all right? And so I'm listening to this, and I'm like, what does this mean? And she said, oh, you don't understand, Governor. This is like the people of Detroit giving you a key to the city. They have bestowed love on you. Big Gretch is like trending everywhere because the president's beating you up, but they know you're looking out for us. And so it turned into this rap, Big Gretch, and it's turned into this incredible thing. And it inspired one of our big TikTok moments, which we got, or social media moments, which we got awards for, and it's social media for social purpose and politics. Lil Gretch, who is a miniature Gretchen, it's a Barbie. It's the America Ferrera Barbie with a haircut. wearing a pink suit, which is one of my power colors, my
Yes.
favorite color. And we use that to educate the public. So, Big Gretchen, Little Gretchen, it's a part of it. And that's a part of the playlist, which is why you should get it.
Yeah, definitely. I have some, I also love Lil Gretch. It's so cute.
She's funny.
She's wonderful. I have some questions from our audience. I like this one a lot, and it was the first one, so hooray. Which woman currently in politics should we be more aware of, who maybe deserves our attention, and maybe people in this room it's not on our radar. She's not on our radar yet. Is there someone you can think of?
There are a lot of great women.
I can
who've
take
gotten
notes.
elected,
So
I heard someone say that one of the lessons of the last election is that America's not ready for a woman chief executive in the White House. And I reject that completely. If anyone says that, in Michigan, Alyssa Slotkin was elected to the U.S. Senate. 2 women were elected to our state Supreme Court. Now it is a majority woman Supreme Court, by the way. A woman won an important congressional seat that was really hard to win, but the woman, Kristen McDonald-Rivet, won that. And Jocelyn Benson, who's our Secretary of State, Dana Nessel, who's our Attorney General. I mean, Michigan's
such incredible women in Michigan. I mean, truly.
Yeah, and you know what? When one of us owns our space, it makes it easier for the others too, right? So like when all the heat's coming in and one of us stands in the breach, when I give a press conference in my leather jacket, it like others can feel more comfortable doing the same, and so we feed off of that. It's a great support system, and I think that seeking out wonderful women who are talented, who are making a difference and helping them. Maybe someone here might think about running, or maybe find someone who is running or interested and give her a hand.
Emily's list was very helpful to you?
A big help to me, yeah.
I'm personally involved with Vote Mama, which offers we have a couple Michigan mamas that offers a lot of mentorship and funding for women who are specifically like parents of kids that are younger, because there's not a lot of support when you run for office, and if you have younger children, it's difficult.
And when you get younger moms, they focus on things like child care that helps everybody.
Yes.
So yes.
And healthcare and sensible gun control and education and also fixing the damn roads. And this is another audience question, which sort of ties in. How do you think female leadership differs from male leadership, if at all?
Oh, I think it differs. We're better off when we've got a diverse group of people at tables of power across this country, whether it's in government or it's in the private sector or anywhere else for that matter. Having people with different lived experiences makes a difference. When I was running for office, my first office in the year 2000, like a long time ago, the year of the hanging chad, my mom got sick with brain cancer, and I won the election. She'd had surgery. I won the election, and then I took care of her for the last year and a half of her life. I also got married and had a baby during that same period of time, and so before I was the age of 30, I was a member of the sandwich generation, meaning I was sandwiched between 2 generations of my own family for whom I was a caregiver. And, that experience, I think, more than anything, kind of forged who I am and why I am the way that I am. It informed my work. I would pump my breast milk and have to balance it on a copy machine in a tiny little room because I knew that was the right thing to do for my family, but no one made it easy for me to do it.
Right.
I had to take on my mom's insurance company that wrongfully denied covering her chemotherapy. I had to figure out daycare and get my mom to her appointments. And so wearing all these hats is why I show up the way that I do, and why I also don't have patience for BS. I got to get things done because time is of the essence. And
we don't have time.
Becoming a mom, people say, how did that change you? I would say it didn't change my values, but it eliminated my patience for getting things, not with my kids, but with the world for getting things done.
Yeah, I always am like, look, the thing is, I get asked the same question about women in like producerial or directing positions or showrunner positions, which until like the last, I don't know, handful of years was way more rare than it is now, especially directors. And I'm like, I would much rather work with a woman. Do you know how many questions I am asked every day and I have to decide immediately what the answer is decisively and not go back on it? That's all we're asking of our leaders in any capacity.
Yeah, that's true. And that I find that women we are better listeners. We want to understand what the problem is so we can fix it. Not to, have a big dissertation on it, but let's just get shit done.
We just want to get shit done. Because we want to put on our face masks. We can hold both. How do you suggest an average citizen engage in political life, especially at this time when we have a current presidential administration that kind of doesn't really believe in democratic principles?
Well, it's not, it's been said that the antidote to apathy is action, right? And I know I've seen it in myself just in the last few months. You got to take care of yourself, and you got to protect your headspace and everything else. And so if it means taking a break, that's fine, but it can't be a permanent break. I know the less I engage, the more anxious I am about the state of things. I am better jumping in than staying on the sidelines. And so that looks different for everybody, and it should, and that's fine. There are different ways that each of us can show up and do something, whether it is something in your direct community or it is something in a community that isn't yours but you can make a difference. There are things that we can all do. Maybe it's just simply escorting women to get their access to health care that's becoming scarier and scarier to access. Mm-hmm. Maybe it is doing something, volunteering at somewhere local in your community. Maybe it's running for office and making sure that every seat gets challenged and that your viewpoint is out there and your voice is out there.
Or showing up for school board meetings,
right?
Guys, here in New York.
Exactly.
They were bringing in like a lot of these, what are they called? The Moms of Liberty or whatever the fuck. What is it called?
Yeah.
Yeah, my school district, I'm like, I'm here. And it was crazy to put in, anti-trans legislation for the school system, for the school district.
Or banning books, right?
Right. Banning books. But you have to show up. Like, that's the thing.
Yes.
Showing
up is more than half the battle.
Showing up is a lot of the battle.
Yeah.
So on the days when you don't want to show up, what makes you show up? The playlist?
Yeah, on occasion, listen to Welcome to the Jungle and head out the door.
A strong red lip?
A strong red lip and a leather jacket.
And a leather jacket? That's
what gets me through some days.
And Welcome to the Jungle. I am a believer in fake it till you make it, and I am currently faking it so hard, and it's really difficult. Like I feel the thing, but also, guys, the ACLU in New York is incredible, and I would highly recommend, if you don't support, getting involved. What would be your advice for public servants like me, someone here, who came into government in different circumstances and are now trying to be influential in more complex circumstances? Woo.
Well, I think it is the power of listening, seeking the humanity in others. It's not you can't always be successful doing those things, but I guarantee you'll have more success if you try. And, it is coming with an open mind. It's hard. One of the most remarkable speeches I have seen is when Bobby Kennedy spoke extemporaneously after Martin Luther King Jr. was killed. And he was saying it's not hatred, but love, essentially, that will help us find our way forward and to be curious, essentially. You know, I credit it with Ted Lasso with that, about be curious, not judgmental, but to seek to understand. And it's powerful. And I'm not suggesting that can solve all problems, but I believe that's where the solution begins. And every one of us can do that in our own way, on our own level.
Well, because this book is really for the young people, but it's really for all of us, I'm going to end with two questions. First, what were some of your favorite books as a teenager? Did you love to read? Were you a reader?
I was not a voracious reader, to be honest.
I do know you loved.
I hate
you
to
watched
say that.
I love Company.
I did. I did. No, you know what? I love reading now. It took me a while to get into reading. Danielle Steele might have had something to do with it at the beginning. I know. What a terrible thing to admit. I loved, though, To Kill a Mockingbird. I've probably read that 10 or 12 times in my life. And I think it's part of why I went into public service, why I went to law school. Atticus Finch had a big impact on my life. And so it was a book that made a big...
Are you reading anything right now?
Oh, I'm reading a crazy book. I'm not going to recommend it to you right now.
Is it A Court of Thorn and Roses?
It's called On All Fours.
Oh, yeah, obviously. It's Miranda's book. Miranda July is the
great.
best.
But I was reading it on the plane, and I just kept thinking, I hope the person behind me doesn't see my screen. Because I always think I'm when I'm traveling outside of Michigan, I don't think people know who I am.
That's not true.
Well, and one time I watched Eat, Pray, Love on a flight. I had my hat on, my hair in a ponytail, and some kid who goes to the University of Michigan posted that he sat behind me on the plane, and I was watching Eat, Pray, Love. So I'm like paranoid about people seeing.
But there's no shame in Eat, Pray, Love.
There's no shame in Eat, Pray, Love.
And you wouldn't be a Gen X woman if you weren't reading All Fours.
But the part of All Fours that I was reading on the plane was,
I get it,
very racy.
I understand.
It was well done. I enjoyed it. But I was reading like this.
I think that's fair. I think that's really fair. Okay, and then two things. What is your best piece of advice that you could give to a young person right now, period? Not political, whatever you want it to be.
What I write in my, when I give young people books is work hard, be kind, and be you.
And the recommended age is 14 for this book. What if you could go back in time to Lil Gretch? Is there any advice you would give her at age 14? What would you want to tell her?
I think that same advice. Be you. I am 53, and I think it was really hard to learn to be myself. To be honest, in politics and in my generation, that wasn't necessarily considered a value. It was fit in, listen more than you talk. It was, don't try to sanitize yourself so you don't stand out and you're not different. You know what I mean? So it was fit into the mold as opposed to be you. Mm-hmm. And it took a while to kind of, I think, shed that skin that was put on me and people in my generation growing up. And so part of the reason I can show up as I am with a funny T-shirt on and wear my leather jackets when I want to is because there are women who walked through the fire before I did and made it easier for me to show up by myself.
Yeah.
I think of Hillary Clinton. I think of Jennifer Granholm. I think of so many women who dealt with so much crap and had to, worry about all those things, and it made it easier for me not to. And I'm hopeful that as I navigate this, I'm making it easier for women who come behind me to even be bolder.
I love it so much. Yeah. Well, Governor, we're so lucky to have you in American politics, and I can't wait for you to stay in American politics for a very, very long time. And and I look forward to the next DNC.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Give it up for Bitsy Phillips.